somebody move action 9.01 for adjournment?
Move it.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us this evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would somebody approve action 1.02?
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 600. If there's anyone in the community who is wishing to reach out to the board, you can reach us at clerk@fulton.cny ric.org. Thank you. I was getting my school with this school. Yes, I had a little, thank you, Mrs. Hutchinson. In the event of an emergency this evening and we need to evacuate, we have a door here to my right. We can go out the back door and head down the left stairs and move as far away from the building as possible. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Wheels. I know.
I'm a heavy leaner.
Was there anybody signed up on the
Don't
public?
believe so.
No? Okay. Would somebody move action 1.06 to approve November 26, 2024 regular meeting minutes?
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 600. This evening's President's Report, you'll see that we have next week health and safety as well as our budget board retreat. A few other policy, regular board meetings, safety security forum that's coming up in January. That safety security forum is on January 21st. I just wanted to do a little update for the community that we are in the process of our superintendent search. We are still going through some of the procedures that need to be done. We have reached out to our city BOCES, and we will keep you informed as the process furthers along. I also wanted to ask Ms. Mainville about how the Oswego County School Board meeting went last night.
I was pleasantly surprised. It was a great meeting. There was a lot of information, and I learned a lot. I will be definitely going back, so maybe we can go together next time. I think it's a Zoom meeting next time. But just for everybody out there, it's like there's this whole huge umbrella of just information and resources that I've been in education for a very long time. I had no idea was available. I had no idea what other districts, what collaboration that they have made with healthcare and different industries and things like that within their communities, and them working together. And there's just endless possibilities, so much knowledge out there. I learned a lot, and we're going to be going around as a committee to other boards in Oswego County to try to amp up participation.
That's
so
great.
I look forward to that.
That's great.
And more meetings to come.
They have some people they're bringing in to talk in the spring.
Yes, they're going to bring in Dr. Daggett to talk about AI. And I guess there was just a special on Dateline talking about what we can use, like differentiated learning. It's not all about giving answers, but actually using it as part of the learning process. And just like the different possibilities that you can use, just not, I'm going to type in what's the answer to the quadratic equation and then pop up the answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Things like that. So that'll be interesting. I think that's March 27th. So
Okay, that's the date they gave, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, they want to open that up to all boards. I know that they were
That'll
in
be
the
a good
process
one.
of that, so that will be
I
a
can
good
actually
one.
tell you, I think
I believe will be held in Mexico at the city.
yes, it is.
Okay,
Yes.
okay.
And the coffee with Mark.
Okay.
Yep,
Do we
that's
have a
coming
date?
up. Not yet,
Okay.
not solidified, but they're trying to keep it around the same time, like 2 p.m.-ish.
Okay,
Mr. Palvino was there, I believe, last year.
I
Right.
was able to make it
I know
last year.
Brenda went. I don't think I
Okay.
made that.
No,
one.
Mr. Palvino was not there.
I know
Mr.
I didn't
Crandall
go.
and
but
myself were
You
there.
got credit for it, though.
Hey, I'll take it.
Nice.
You're welcome. But it was a good meeting.
Great, well, thank you so much for
Yeah,
going
No
last night. I
problem.
appreciate
I'm glad I
that.
did.
Yeah,
Happy
that's
to- yeah.
great, it's a great, source for us to have.
It is.
And-
Networking, and I was sitting next to a board member in Phoenix, and I really have never seen him before in my life. It was crazy, you know what I mean, like, why would you?
Yeah,
So it was
Exactly.
good, we had good
Exactly.
conversation.
great,
Yep.
that's great. So if there isn't any other questions or anything anybody wants to add, just keep in mind when our next meetings are coming up, we are through the end of January on there. And with that, I will pass it over to the superintendent for his report.
Thank you. It's our last meeting in 2024. That's exciting, isn't it? So I'd just like to wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas. I wanted to start by just sharing on Saturday night I went down to the tree lighting. And there was so many people in our community. We had a pre-K table going, and so you had copies of the brochures. Lots of books were handed out. I got to stand there for a little while talking to the team that we had there, and just family after family was coming up. Lots of interest, a lot of people picking up information, and a lot of kids between 3 and 5 years old all over the place down there. So it was really terrific. It was great seeing our families and our staff in a very different way. And then at 5:15, we had students dancing that were part of different dance troupes. But then at 5:30, we had caroling going on. And we had a couple of our music teachers there that evening doing just a great job with a group of kids. And they really got the whole group of people down there singing different carols. It was a great way to come together as they lit the tree. And one of our staff members actually was the official lighter, or whatever, there's a name for it, but she lit the tree, and that was Coco Doty that evening. So that was great to see one of our staff members who's very involved out in our community, and our kids there all together for that evening. It was just a great evening. And our kids being so much a part of it. Chris Waldron talked about the number of kids who came down, volunteered throughout the course of the day, setting it up, and it would just showed another way of how our kids are contributing and participating in our community. So it was great. And we'll start off this evening with Ms. Cotaro and Bailey DuPoint. Come on up. And they're going to be talking about a great project the Hope Club is doing for holiday gifting for Golisano's Children's Center that's coming out of G. Ray Bobley. Thank you.
Yes. I am Jess Cotero. For those of you that don't know me, I teach math at GRB. I have Allie this year.
Yep.
I had Andrew last
Yep.
year. And this is,
I'm Bailey DuPoint, I'm the president of Hope Club.
we have,
Slides, yeah.
Who's driving?
Driving
do that,
about.
sorry, it'd take me a minute, but I'll
Right, the very nice.
If you don't know what Hope Club stands for, it's helping other people everywhere. I took over Hope Club a few years ago. I am merely the facilitator. All, if not most of the clubs are student-run clubs. So I am going to stand by once we get our presentation up here, so
I'm
Bailey
sorry.
can tell you a little bit about things we have done in the past,
Yeah.
and then we'll talk about what we're doing this month.
We're actually a pretty active club. We meet every Tuesday, and there are lots of clubs that meet on Tuesday, but surprisingly, we all figure out how to be there on time and we make it. I feel like
I don't think this is it.
everybody that's there really wants to be there, and that's like the most important part of clubs in high school is you can't just show up and be.
One of the things that I kind of stressed in the beginning is that I want,
Hold on. Let's see
it's
if we
there,
can
but
get-
it's not up
Yes,
here.
Chris, do you have? Chris, do you have it?
Can you put that up on the screen by chance, Chris, or not?
It'll kick me off the stream if
You
I
can't
can't.
do that.
I'll get him.
If you can send me the presentation.
It's coming right now.
Got it, great.
Minor little technical difficulties.
Okay.
Keep going and talk about
Yes.
the wonderful things that Hope Club does.
One of the things I try to stress in the beginning of the year when kids actually join Hope Club is that I want you to want to be here. I don't want you to be here to fulfill some community service hours. Do you know what I'm saying? And for those of the kids that are there for that reason, I hope to swindle them by the end of the year, you know what I mean? And say, oh, I really actually did like helping the community and helping other people, if that makes sense.
I
you
do,
know?
yeah.
So they come back the following.
And
year.
kind of change their perspective a little bit, like it feels good to help others.
in the beginning of the year, I had a little bit of an incentive, and now there's some kids who actually came.
Yeah,
and
they're like,
I
"Oh,
wasn't there today, and I
We're
was
making,
like,
they did.
yes.
We're making Christmas cards currently. One of our projects for December is making Christmas, or holiday cards, I shouldn't say
Holiday
Christmas. Holiday cards for a nursing home.
Okay.
So, and they actually came without me
Yeah.
today.
because I had another meeting, so I just couldn't make it, and I was like, I was so happy when I saw them home. I was like, oh my god,
Chris.
club.
Can you send it back to me? I don't have the slides.
But you're doing an amazing job.
Yes.
Oh, okay, so we'll keep going.
Yeah.
It's got it.
We got it up here.
But that's not it, so.
That's okay. we
What
can
you
do
could talk about.
Yeah, go
Let's
ahead and
talk
talk
about
about
it.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Last-
send it to you right now.
That'd be good. Thank you.
Last year, we kind of typically do one thing a month. Last year, we donated to Toys for Tots, Oswego County. This year, to change it up a little bit, I was kind of researching like different things that we could do. And I came across, I'm like, oh, okay, Golisano, let's check out and see what they have. So, we came across this holiday wish list for patients and children that are at Golisano, and I thought it might be a good thing for our club to do. So I brought it to the club, and then they loved the idea. And Miss Liv Hendrickson was like, oh, hey, why don't we open it up to the entire district? And I was like, oh, is that a thing we can do? She's like, yeah, I'm gonna send it to my dad and get it done. We'll send it to Mr. Palomino. So that quickly became a thing, and we sent it out to the entire district. So we are currently collecting all of these, all of these new, for the immunocompromised children, they have to be new items, certain brands of crayons,
There
etc.
are lots of, like, if you scroll down to the bottom,
There's
there are
giving guidelines, yeah.
That's
So,
the thing about that.
Where is the drop off?
So right now I have it, since I'm at GRB, at the greeter station, right at GRB, I'm working with the greeters. She said, I don't know, house all this stuff and pick it up. I was collecting through Friday, cause initially, I know it's a closed window. Their deadline is the 18th of December.
Okay,
So
so
I was like,
you're
okay.
collecting.
So I was going to bring all of the items this weekend, but then I realized my son goes to Liverpool, he has a half day on Friday, so I'm not gonna be here. So I'm actually extending it through Monday, and then we'll just, so another weekend I feel like would be okay.
Talk slower. No, I'm kidding. Still not there yet. I'm sorry. You're doing a great job. You're doing a great
By
job.
the time we're done,
That's right.
you know.
That's right. There we go. Good timing.
What you mean?
This was everything right.
Main entrance.
Oh, yeah.
There it
There we
is.
go.
So we were kind of also thinking, I was having a conversation with Kelly Rickert this morning, and we were just kind of talking about, right now is the season of I want. And I wanna kind of try to remove kids from themselves for a minute and just have them realize they can give to others. It doesn't have to be something big, something expensive, it can be time, it can be something small, but I think we've got some kids
Hope
to
makes
come
me
around.
feel really good, like, it actually makes me want to stay after school on Tuesday, like, it's not like, oh, I have Hope Club, it's like, yay, Hope Club. Like, I actually wanna go. And the trunk or treat that we have done, that's the first bullet, that is an event at JRB where, staff's families come and trick or treat throughout the hallways, and it's really cute, and they dress up, and I love it. So we volunteer for that, and we decorate the hallways for that too, so we get the, vibe of Halloween. And then we just finished a food drive for Thanksgiving, and we did really good on that.
Yeah, the week of Thanksgiving, on my lunch, I drove over 7 or 8 boxes of food to Catholic Charities, and they were so thankful.
Yeah.
So that was cool. Yeah.
We did a clothing drive last year for the district, that was good, we got a lot of clothes out of that. We really enjoy doing the cards for the nursing homes, and we have done better in the past. It's like a really fun way to be creative and still, bring the holiday cheer to the nursing homes. And, a lot of the people from the club volunteer at like the community events too. And then in the past, we do like a big spring event after, usually break, so we'll take a break after this, toy drive, and then as soon as we come back from break, we'll start planning for our spring event.
And on the next slide, I think,
Yeah, the past few years we've done Valley's Got Talent, but
in the past, we have done, and this wasn't through Hope Club, this was, we did Hoops for Hope. Derek Lyons and I coordinated Hoops for Hope, where we had News Channel 9 come up to Fulton, and we had our teachers play the news channel. And the last year we did it, before COVID, we were able to raise like over $14,000 and donate it to, we did Upstate, the Patient Fund, and then we did breast cancer, a local breast cancer.
so whatever event we do, we're gonna come up with, somewhere that we feel is an important place to fundraise for as a group, as a club, and we'll vote on that, because we wanna make sure that our whole club actually wants to, like, feels passion in what we are raising money for.
And the kids choose everything we do.
Yeah,
so
pretty much.
I'm just here,
Yeah, we use your room, that's good.
Yeah. What questions do you have for us? It's pretty quick and easy.
Yeah.
Don't forget the Rotary.
Oh yes, the Rotary. So I actually changed that. So we are partnering with, I had a meeting last week or the week prior to that with Bill Lynch, who is a part of the Fulton Rotary Club. And they are actually tomorrow, they want to partner with us because it's kind of like a natural fit. We feel like Rotary and then Hope Club, we kind of have the same goal, if that makes sense. He's actually, members of Rotary are coming to GRB tomorrow, 1:15. They're gonna drop off a bunch of our wish list items, so, and that's wonderful. And then we kind of plan to work together in the future on community things, getting our kids involved in the community. It's kind of tough because all of our Hope Club kids are great kids who are spread very thin. They do many sports, music, they do a lot of things, but we're gonna make it work. Just get them out there.
Can I toss an idea out there?
Yeah.
We were lucky enough to have Blessings in a Backpack come to
Yes.
the board a couple weeks ago, and they were always looking for volunteers or possibly fundraising efforts, so that may be one thing that you would want to bring back to the students and consider.
I'll definitely bring that up at the next
Yeah.
meeting, yeah. That's good.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
How many kids do you have in the club?
That come
Regularly, like between 10 and 15.
Yeah, but it's a very good group of people.
It is.
That's impressive.
And it's like an ongoing enrollment type of thing. I
Yeah.
just had a student I don't even know came up to me in the hall the other day and she was like, hey, I heard Hope Club might be a good fit for me. Can I come to the meeting? And I was like, of course. She was there today. She made a card. She made a couple cards. Yeah. So a student I don't even know. So that was pretty awesome too.
Awesome. Great. Keep doing all the good things that you guys do. We appreciate your
Thank
club
you.
and our school, and we know, I mean, I've been to the Bodley Got Talent before. You guys put on a really good show there, and I know that you use your funds for good charitable causes, so we appreciate that. And the basketball, is that something you're looking into doing again this year, or down the line?
Yes, we are. We are going to try to coordinate. And that's another whole district
Yeah,
thing,
it's
so
super
that's
fun.
why it's fun.
Yeah, I do remember the last time you did that. That was a fun
was
community
so-
event, so yeah.
The other years I don't know if you guys remember Danger Girl.
Yes,
So,
yes.
the one year we gave like $5,000 to them, so that was wonderful. And then, before we got shut down for COVID, we had raised some money, and then, so Derek had it in an account for the basketball, for Fulton Girls basketball account, and, he was like, hey, do you wanna give it to, it was another local family in need, Dominic. Yes, we gave it to them. The rest of the money that we had raised that didn't get donated, so just helping local families is nice too.
That's great. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yes, thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good holiday.
You too, thank you.
Thank you for making a difference. District Coherence Council will do an update. Mr. and Mrs. Hendrickson, if you could provide an update to the board from last night's meeting.
Sure. Last night, the District Coherence Council met, which includes the 6 buildings, site-based teams, and students. So there was quite a few, there was more students that I think came last night than had in our first meeting. We touched quickly on the key elements of New York Inspires, which is a plan to transform the education in New York State. The 4 key components are adopting the portrait of the graduate, redefining the credits, sunsetting current diploma systems, and transitioning to one single diploma. So we're going to spend more time at our next district meeting on March 24th, diving into that. So the majority of our time was spent really analyzing the district strategic coherence plan survey results. We only got through the family portion, but we broke off into our groups, focusing on the format of here's what I notice, what trends I see, what's the significance of this pattern that I'm noticing, and then talked about recommendations for the rest of the year to go through. And if you want to add some more.
Sum it up. We took some of the feedback last night, looked at specifically the buildings are going to get into their data from the feedback when they have their building level site-based meetings to look specifically at the feedback from families that was for their building for some of those systems and things, and process that. So a big part of that was just we went over the results and had people asking the questions about what our responses look like and what we hope to do with the results that we get.
You want to hit on some of the examples, just some of the takeaways from last night?
So some of the big takeaways that we're going to address, we saw a need to really put some information out again about conflict versus bullying. So providing some PD for parents and students about that. Focusing on support for positive student behavior, ways to increase parent engagement, and boosting some more survey participation. So how can we get some more feedback? We do this again in the spring. And taking, I guess, a closer look at our student progress monitor. How do we provide more frequent feedback to the parents about how students are doing, not just during the 5, 15, and 10-week marking periods, but frequent feedback. So those are some big picture items that we were going to try to focus on for the rest of the year.
Was Parent Square brought up a lot? Because I know that we just started using it in Phoenix, and I get a lot of updates for Fulton too, but that's just, I'm just wondering if that was brought up as a way.
One of the things that we did talk about was our communication playbook from the district level. So what does it look like? How do we communicate in a systematic way so that the Parent Square doesn't become too noisy? So if Brian sends something, I send something, building principal sends something, and a teacher sends something, it becomes too much for people. So kind of a guidebook and a playbook for what that looks like for us. But then one of the discussion points that came up last night is for the community members to understand that as well. So knowing when I'm looking for this information, this is when I should see it and from who, these are the dates, like having that information known by the public as well. I should expect updates on these days from the district, on these days from the building. If I have a problem, I should go to the teacher for this, to the administrator for this, and understand kind of how our systems work so that Parent Square becomes a little bit more usable and doesn't become, like when you see too many things in your inbox, everything starts to become a little bit noisy and you start to ignore that idea of making it more efficient and useful. Communication is always one of those things every year that we look for making our systems better. And our feedback was positive and negative, right? Some people said, we really like the way some of this communication works, and other people said, we wish that it would work differently in these ways. So that was one of the things that people reflected on, and it sounded like the playbook was a good starting point for people from the community to understand that flip side of this is how we should function with Parent Square as well, not just how should we as the professional staff use it, but then how should they use it and understand how it is used as well.
Do you feel that this would be something that, all right, I'm going to call it Parent University because I can't remember if we changed the name of that or not, but something that you would put for there for families to understand that playbook and that communication? Is that, something you plan on throwing up them sooner, I'm sure as well, but I'm just trying to get a feel for where the families are gonna know that this is the playbook that they're following and that they're getting communications this day versus this day for
I think
their needs.
I've been meeting with Alex Richmond as well, to think about parent engagement, so maybe doing short videos. Clips of like 1 or 2 1 or 2 minute videos that explain what a parent square is and how to use it. Sometimes those are easier to, watch on your phone versus reading a newsletter, so we're talking through some different avenues to share that information.
I like that idea, it's good.
And different concerts or when you have people coming in already, sporting events, like where can we have maybe some tables up to communicate those pieces to parents. So.
Prepared kinds of things, just so there for take and go.
Okay.
I think that, just thinking about it, I remember when my kids were in elementary school, the cadence is probably going to be a bit different, elementary, middle, and high school level. Elementary school, you always get things sent home and you're always looking through their folders, right? So you see it, you hear it, and you're reminded of it. Then in middle school, it sort of tapers off, and then in high school, what I found with my own kids is it's hard to get out of them what is going on. And I understand there's a balance between having them become responsible adults and handling things themselves, but also we can't help if we don't know what's going on. So I personally, for the high school part of it, I like getting the announcements because I don't know that my kids are telling me everything, and half the time I don't know what's going on.
Is that the Friday piece that he sends?
Yes, I like the sporting events stuff is out there, the updates from Nate, Mr. Murray. I enjoy because it's, okay, this is due, this is due, this is due. I just assume that Dan does it, my husband, because he's at the high school, and he usually is not that person, so it's good to know myself. So I appreciate more noise at the high school level, the cadence being more upbeat. Whereas I could see where it'd be like a slower roll at the elementary school.
To piggyback on Ms. Manville's point though, I have junior high and elementary students too. One of the things we struggle with as a family is, when we're talking about progress and things like that, kids post-COVID really don't bring homework anymore. We're not getting those papers in the folder. It's hard to check progress because we're not getting that. We're not seeing, oh, you got 7 out of 10 on a spelling test, or I haven't seen a spelling test,
Right.
And so I don't know, the math test and things like that because we're not seeing it, and so much work is doing on a Chromebook. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying it's hard to access that information.
That's exactly those are pieces we're talking about. How
That's
do
a good
you
point,
communicate
because,
that?
we're past that.
Yes.
In my house. Yeah, okay, that's a good point.
Yep, and so getting that kind of feedback, or, getting all the stacks of papers that we used to get years
Yes.
ago, we're, not really getting that even, so. And not that the schools aren't communicating, I get updates with Parent Square and things like that, but, getting that kind of constant feedback, because we're.
I find it
technology.
helpful personally.
Mhm. That was definitely came out loud and clear at the meeting last night, and when we've been going through the surveys, is definitely provide more information to parents about how students are doing before, report card time.
Yeah, especially at the elementary level too, because teachers aren't putting homework grades, or, class stuff in parents, or in school tools.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah, it's not like you got this on a test and this, that really doesn't take effect until junior high and secondary, and so it's hard to really know the progress of your student unless you have that open communication with the teacher.
And the elementary level has that access to be able to do that though? Or that
Not
parents
through
of the
school
younger-
tool.
Not through school tool, okay, okay.
So that's something we're definitely talking about as we're going through the report card system and developing more common assessments, frequent common assessments, not just snapshots.
Yeah.
So that students can know what they're learning and how they're progressing
And if you guys are going to move toward more of the frequent common assessments, would that be something that is that something you guys do on the computer now, or is that sent home? Like, would that be
Depending on, I think,
good for
the
like school
grade
tools? Because you're
level.
not gonna have a bunch of, you know what I mean? Because I didn't even think about that. You're not getting as much sent home because of the, but I know that we've been working toward the common formative assessments in all areas, so
Some of them
yeah,
are
that makes
paper,
sense.
so it's finding that balance between paper and computer.
Yep.
Because we know that where students write with a pen or pencil, they tend to remember that more and it develops so many more skills. And our regencies are all pencil, pen, where our computer based is elementary, so.
But that is a good point, because how are you gonna help them be more successful at home? But I remember just sitting down and having them go through the A's, and if we're not having that set home, how are we communicating that? So yes, that is a good point.
We're working on that.
Yeah. Balance.
So next steps will be the site-based teams will look at the overall data for the district at their future site-based. They're gonna take a hard look at the student staff district-wide. They're also gonna be looking at their staff, family, and student that's specific to their schools as well. And then we come back in March. We'll do an update to the board in January. We just got all the information on Friday, so we were able to get it kind of in this way that we could present it to the yesterday for discussion. And it was a rich discussion. The family one was 45 minutes. They had a half an hour working on stuff, and then 45 minutes of discussion. I mean, we were going to switch to staff, and we actually stayed on family because it was so rich.
Great.
So it was good. And I'm looking forward. And the kids, I thought, did a good job too. They brought up some things like around conferencing, things like that, which is interesting. They'd like to have more parent-teacher conferences, things like that. It was very interesting hearing from the kids.
That was my kid. He was so excited to get in the car and talk about how he wanted more parents. Are you sure you want me showing up for your school more? And he was like, I really think that parents should be there several times a year. And I was like, okay. I mean, and it's something that we could probably do, you know, my son and I were talking about it, like even virtually, you know,
Right.
The parents don't necessarily, or that work, you know, that can't make it into the school, that we can do virtual conferences to really provide that feedback and that open that door for communication. I was surprised he said it, but.
So more to follow. But I thought it was a great way to kick off kind of the analysis of the survey results by going through that combined team effort. So I thought it was a good way to start that. The third piece this evening is SWIDGET luminance procedures. Dr. Lisi and team, or just Dr. Lisi?
That was just me. So just a little, just a reminder, SWIDGET is the company that's providing us with the luminance crisis communication system that we had talked about, and we'll be piloting that soon. Just to give you a little update on where we are with that. So the SWIDGET team has been visiting the district, and they've done that quite often to work with both our tech team and our operations and maintenance, both for training purposes and also the installation process and the technology involved to get them acclimated to it. So in fact, they were here yesterday and they were going through what it looks like to install the product itself. So at this point, the outlets themselves have been installed in the rooms where we'll be piloting, but the cameras have not. The modules are not there yet. We won't be putting those in until after the training, so that, you know, folks are well aware of that and that the cameras are there and so on and so forth. Also, the administration team is working on, and this is one of the critical factors, you have to remember that SWIDGET is working on the technology itself, which is really just the buttons and the information and so on. The administration is working on the protocols and the expectations for the use of the system and device, which is a critical factor. And so we're working through that. And then the plan moving forward is that just after the holidays, we should have all the technology in place, and it should be working to the expectation of the pilot at that point. And we'll have the protocols and expectations for the use of done. We're hoping to start the pilot in the first or second, really be the second week of January, somewhere in that area, once we get the training completed with those members that are participating. Happy to report we have 6 teachers that have volunteered to be in the pilot program. And so we'll work forward from there. So far, so good. And actually, in the time period since SWIDGET was here and today, they've actually added 2 more technologies to the device that they'll be testing, piloting. One of them was the RFID door pass. The technologies we have in our badges, because they thought, well, why would you carry 2 things? They want to incorporate the badge technology into their device that they'll be wearing. So they're working on the RFID pass for the doors, and they're working to also include a digital ID on the front of it, so that you don't have to wear 2 things. So they're working through that, and they're testing it, and working with our team, and so far so good. That's the latest.
When you say the admin is working on the procedures and protocols and expectation, who's that admin?
The senior administration
The senior,
team.
okay.
Right, and again, that's part of the pilot. So I think what we want to do is be able to get feedback from those that are participating. You know, did that work for you? You know, was the response time what you expected, and so on. So we'll start with us, and I think we're going to use TCIS framework. I was working with Jeff on this, in fact, as kind of our guideline for what the response would be if you push the buttons, essentially. So, and we'll continue to work through that. So again, it's a pilot, and everyone's feedback will be important in the process.
So when they do the pilot, you have the 911 and the non-911.
Correct.
When you guys simulate the 911, is that going to link into our services, our police departments and fire, so that they too kind of know what's going on, but know that, no, this is not a real
Yeah, oh
emergency?
yeah, sure, no, we'll coordinate with them because they'll keep them on their toes. No.
Yeah, right? Wait, what?
I think
They'll be part of the process, basically.
Yeah, they will. I think initially what we talked about was maybe starting with our SRO team, getting that alert first before we expand it beyond, and then working with our local police department, have them try the next one and look at that response time, what that looks like to them. Because at this point, it looks like they're going to receive a text with a link, and click the link and they'll see the video. So that's what we're working towards, and that's my understanding of what Swidget's trying to do with us.
Can you remind me what TCIS stands for?
Sure, I'm going to have Jeff explain.
So,
yeah.
I think where you're going,
Yeah.
SST, student support.
Sorry, SST.
Too many acronyms.
I'm like,
So, we just did TCIS training, which is
oh,
therapeutic
that's
crisis
right.
intervention.
Yes.
So that's separate, but it's part of the response from SST. So let me throw another acronym. So student support teams.
Okay, yeah,
Our
okay.
principals, our school psychologists,
more
our
sense.
restorative practice
Okay.
specialists, people that
Okay.
are responding to students in crisis.
Yes.
They have kind of a matrix to follow, and what we've used in the past for our system in the school is like level 1, 2, 3, 4. And the response that, what that looks like, an example of what that might look like in your classroom, and what the expected response is. So part of this with Luminance is to look at basically 3 and 4. Replacing 3 and 4 with red button, blue button, or whatever it happens to be, to say, okay, this is an in-house emergency and we need response, this is an out-of-house response that's required. And looking at that same matrix and system that we've used for a couple of years now, but just putting Luminance in with that, so that this is what this means, this is what you can expect for a response from us. So we made a few tweaks to look at it, and with all of these things, we'll pilot, trial, not just the senior admin team, but then the building principals will get together and kind of have like what we've done with any of those safety trainings. Do some piloting and some practicing and see what it looks like, and be able to ask some questions and respond.
When you said that the different levels that we've used, is that a Lanigan we've used, or is that a district-wide, like everybody in the same building is, everybody is on the same page of what a level 1, 2, 3, and 4 is? Everybody knows
Very,
that
very similar. So one document that becomes building specific to the people, to the office, to some of the protocols that might happen in that building, but a 1, 2, 3, 4 that looks the same from our student support team's response.
Okay, right. Like exits and stuff obviously would be
Right,
different.
so
would be
like
different.
numbers
Right.
that you might call, people that you might call,
Yes.
who to expect to
okay.
respond.
Building
not
specific to
everything
those
looks
things.
exact, but the
But their
the
response is
system-
going to be the same.
Yes, so level 1 looks very similar.
Similar, I should say similar.
Yep.
Nothing is really, okay. Be careful. Got it.
Any other questions? Thank Dr. Lisi and the team, and everybody's been working on that. It's hard, seems like it's been a long road, but we're finally coming out the other side and getting ready to pilot, so.
We're getting there.
It's cutting edge, so thank you for all your efforts in that area. And finally, the transportation electric buses, I had gotten a request for an update. So Dr. Lisi and team.
I'm on again. That's okay. So just again, a little background, just so you're aware, New York State initiated a mandate for school districts throughout the state for electric buses. The goal for the state and the mandate was that all school districts would be electrified in terms of transportation buses by 2035. That was actually pushed out. Originally, I believe it was 2027. By 2027, we are not supposed to purchase any non-electric vehicles to make that change. So Mr. Wilson has taken the lead in this, but again, just some of the background. The state has asked us to provide feedback and information in various forms, and we've done that. Everything including our routes, what it looks like on the students we transport, programs like McKinney-Vento, what that looks like, whether or not we use a third-party vendor, which we do, as you know, Goldman Sun, and what does our fleet look like. So we've provided that feedback. We've also kind of heard the conversations that have happened statewide in terms of what other districts are facing, some of the apprehensions, some of the challenges, and some of the pluses that are associated with that. So we've been looking at that as well. And my my expectation is you're probably going to continue to hear more about that program and what our role would need to be. And so we'll continue to bring that to the table. Mr. Wilson, I asked him to join us tonight just to kind of provide you with some of the feedback that we've both provided to the state and what we've heard from the state. So I'll ask Mr. Wilson to.
Sure. So in regards to that, with the process that we've done, we did do a fleet assessment report with National Grid, which is one of the requirements that New York State had for us to do over the summer. And with that, we found that the main thing we're going to be facing would be that we need some upgrades to the feeder to where the current bus depot is, which is at the site, as well as a new overhead service transformer, because they're expecting to have some possible voltage issues. So, with that, and also with the site work that would be needed to do and upgrade where the buses are currently parked and to install the charging infrastructure, there's definitely some unique challenges. So we're looking at, what that looks like going forward. But, we've got the initial parts in play, and we're getting more information on that. So it's in progress.
Thank you very much. And so we're working with Golden Sun. They also had to conduct their own study with the National Grid to determine if they were prepared. And that study came back showing that they would also need to do upgrades, pretty substantial upgrades to make that work. Our concerns are the same as other school districts: the distance, the maintenance, the facilities, all of that associated with it. I think that's part of the reason why they pushed the date out to 2035. Like everyone else, we have the same concerns. But again, my primary concern would be funding. There are some grants in place that would help purchase the vehicles. They're not 100% in place to do that, but again, those are programs and questions we continue to pose to the state.
Right.
That's really kind of
one of the Rockefeller report that you all received, I gave you parts and did the summaries. In that report, the Rockefeller report actually recommends that the state take the lead on transportation and putting the infrastructure together, and provide it and purchase, be a big part of the purchasing aspect as well. So as you know, I've talked before about, I think they ought to be identifying 30 to 50 districts, do it right, and assign us as clusters, like assign us with other small cities of a similar demographic, as far as physical layouts of our districts, things like that. And let's work on making those function very well and learn from them and replicate, not everybody trying to piecemeal it together. And I think that's something that it's going to be interesting to see what happens with the Rockefeller report and how that's not only affects our foundation aid, but this transportation electric bus piece as well, because I know that there's a lot of discussion across the country about it. There's some real pros, and then there's other challenges that we have to look at. So that's the latest update, and we've been meeting the expectations to this point. There's also discussion about should they be public referendums for these, and if you noticed, I believe it was one of the, and I won't name the district, a district to the south in Onondaga County just did one, I think in the last week or so. And I believe it failed, 300 and change to 100 and change, I believe it was. And I know there was a district to our north that also had, they had put out a diesel bus one that passed, but the electric bus one failed. And the question is, we have to have public approval. So if we go through all of those pieces, so you notice more and more districts are doing them not with their traditional time frame, so they're not getting, trying to mix the two together. So I think that's something that as future boards, we're gonna need to look at, like how do we roll that out? We need to keep an eye on what's going on nationally. I think we really need to do in the next year or two, really figure out, do we start down that path, even on our own fleet, buying a hybrid or doing some other kinds of things to start moving toward it a little bit and explore it a bit. But there was somebody said, I was talking to recently, just bought the fleet cars at one of the BOCES. And that person said that apparently it hasn't been going real well because it has not. Okay. And that's just vehicles, because there's not places to charge in the places where they're offering professional development around the state. So they'll drive to these places, but they're struggling with those kinds of things. So there's real infrastructure issues, but I think it's something we need to keep at the forefront. We need to keep watching very closely and working very closely with the different presenters across the state and the different organizations, whether it's NISCUS, NISBA. I think we need to really watch and be in alignment with what they're doing. In small cities also has been looking at this topic as well.
And something also we can, again, talk with Mr. Barkley about. I know that he has had discussions with us in the past, and may or may not have been the reason why they pushed out a little bit. You know, those things, but like you're saying, even with our fleet, so it's not even just Golden Sun having the chargers, but we would need chargers here.
Yes,
Or
that's what
at
Tim
the
was
high
talking
school,
about, just
or, right?
that's
I
correct.
mean, like that comes on us, that's not probably something we're gonna get a
With
grant
our
from.
small fleet of 11.
That was, our initial discussions really were around, not the buses, but the infrastructure.
Right.
Yeah,
Because building that wouldn't necessarily hurt, because that infrastructure is important, everything from the transformers on up, because expanding our capability is probably important. That's probably where the first moves ought to be made, because buying a bus without the infrastructure doesn't do us much good.
right.
So,
But also too, with Golden Sun Bus, it sounds to me like they're gonna have to spend a fortune.
yeah.
And who's that cost gonna be passed on to?
Yeah.
Us.
Sure.
And we're gonna have to look at that in our future budgets.
Absolutely.
Same thing with what this is gonna cost when we do it here. And the only one I think that's gonna make out very well in this is National Grid and the state. And what happens, we have a heat wave in the summer, and National Grid is telling us, everybody's gotta turn their thermostats up, you know, their ACs, turn them off, all this, and we got buses and all we're doing is just adding to the grid. I mean, I think this is too soon, we're not ready for it, I think they should keep it 2030, then start phasing it, but we are not, in the next 5 years, I don't even know if we'll be ready.
Well, I think one of the things I think we need to keep an eye on, and the good news is, I think it will be good news for Fulton as well, is the Micron did get passed. That a lot of good information came out in the last 48 hours about that. So now, you know, a lot of questions were kind of out there. Now it seems to be much clearer. The CHIPS money is coming. That I think is why there wasn't you know, they haven't put a shovel in the ground yet. But I think now that that's coming, that's a big step. There's also going to be an impact on the power grids, you know, water, all of those kinds of things. It's an opportunity for the different jurisdictions to work together. Micron, all of the different, you know, towns kind of, because that power is going to be coming right down through the center of the county. So.
I can't help but think that, you know, my role's been technology for decades, is that one of the reasons why they pushed this out again is the technology is rapidly changing.
Yes.
And, you know, we might see something, by 2035, there might be something entirely different. Yeah. So it was a good move on their part to push it out.
And I know that New York State Education Department they are in favor of this along with the governor, unless we, the districts, are starting to notice that we can't support this. And those are the things they want to hear. However, if we don't have the buses and the infrastructure to send their way, they're not really able to help us. And that's what they stressed at the conference in the fall, is that, you know, we need to tell them if it's working. Well, we don't know yet.
Yeah.
More to follow. So with that, I will turn it back over to Ms. Abelgore again and wish everybody happy holidays, Merry Christmas, and Ms. Abelgore.
Thank you. Great. Somebody move action 4.01, accept financials.
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. Action 4.02, approve disposal of surplus property.
Move it.
Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. Action 5.01, approve committee on special education.
Move it.
Second, anybody?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. Did you get Tim and Fallon?
I got Tim and Lori.
Tim and Lori? Okay. All right. Action 5.02, approve destruction of ballots from May 21st, 2024.
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. Action 5.03, approve city facilities agreements.
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. Action 6, well, we're not voting on it tonight, but 6.01 is the first reading of the policies. Are there any discussions or any input from the policy committee, our friends? Everybody's good? All right, we'll vote on that at the next meeting. Action personnel, would my colleagues be interested in batching 7.01 to 7.11?
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. Okay. Action 7.12, approve the agreement of the custodial and maintenance contract.
Move it.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0. Going to move into board forum. Mrs. Hutchinson.
I just wanted to thank everybody for their presentations tonight. I wanted to do a special shout out to the Hope Club and all their hard work and that they're doing there. They're really doing some incredible things. We're so lucky to have such amazing staff and students really leading the way and providing for our community and other communities. So just thank you so much and have a great holiday, everybody.
Mr. Crandall.
Well, I can't add much to it, but yeah, have a great holiday.
Thank you. Ms. Pearl.
The same thing, I appreciate, Hope, I was very impressed, and was she high school student?
Yes.
I'm impressed, I'm very impressed, and everybody, I wanna wish a happy and safe holiday season.
Thank
You as
you.
well.
Ms. Mabel.
Thank you for the presentations. I'm always happy to hear that we're on the same page and we're being consistent about things. So hearing about the common, more frequent common assessments and the work you're doing there is great. And of course, our protocols and expectations in case of emergencies, just especially that the safety of our students, to make sure we're all on the same page. Happy holidays, and that's it for me.
Okay. Mr. DeJorm.
A shout out to the Hope Club. What a great idea. And I don't know who the student or the student was that came up with it, but I'm glad other people are following in their footsteps there. Thank you to the Hendricksons for the update on the District Coherence Council. And Dr. Lisi and Kim, thanks for the update on Swidget Luminous.
Pleasure.
I'd like to see that get off the ground.
Same here.
Thank you for the updates. It's really important to hear. We hear about it and then we don't hear about it for a while. So to be able to hear about it and see that things are actually moving is really a really great thing. Shout out to our lovely students who are in the spirits of giving this holiday season. I like how it tied in with our blessings in the backpack last month. There are such good things happening in our district and sometimes we just don't see them. So thank you, Mr. Palvino, for bringing our students to us and highlighting them and the good works that they're doing for our community. I just have a quick question for Dr. Lisi.
Sure.
Or maybe Mr. Palvino. I know that we recently got a letter from Mr. Palvino, or the other day, about the lead testing. And I just in a quick little version update, could you just kind of fill us in and let us know like how that came about and why we did the lead testing to begin with?
No, happy to do that. New York State requires that we do lead testing for water every 3 years. Correct me if I'm wrong, but every 3 years. And so this was our most recent testing. This is preliminary testing that we do of all of our faucets and outlets in the district. And so we were obligated to share the results for anything over 5 parts per million. Sorry?
Billion.
Million would be not a good thing. 5 parts per billion. That was recently, the threshold was changed by the state. It used to be 15. So we saw more results this time because obviously we lowered the threshold. So what we're obligated to do is first of all make sure that those are not used if they're above that threshold. So we mark all of those outlets, and that was done immediately. And we're also obligated to report the results that are over to all of our families and staff and so on, and that's why the message was sent out. Mitigation standards, so one of the things that we'll be doing very soon is changing the outlets and faucets on those affected devices. It's my understanding, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, that that's the likely cause of any of the higher ratings that we received. So we'll go through that process, and once that's done, we'll retest. Again, if they pass, then we'll put those faucets or outlets back in service. If not, then we've got to look at other mitigating processes. So that's where we're at this point. This is, other districts are going through the same process too.
Is if you change out the outlets.
Yeah.
And we find that they're still high.
Yeah.
Are we contaminating the new outlets? If it's the water?
Yeah, we'd have to go down that path when it happens. Right now, we do believe it is, because in some cases, what we're getting is sinks that are right next to each other. We're getting a high rating from one sink and a low rating from another. So it's likely not the central pipe, it's more than likely that particular faucet. So I don't think you'd get it going backwards, but yeah, it's something we can look at. Good question.
Did you have a question, Mr. Kendall?
No. Did you want to add anything? The two gentlemen in the back have been doing a lot of work in this area, Corey and Tim. Is there anything else you can add to that?
We've recently done a lot of piping upgrades at Fairgrave over the last summer, and I don't know that necessarily helped with the numbers, but it certainly didn't hurt us. So still got some work to do.
And I'll just add too, most of, again, correct me if I'm wrong, most of our pipes in our building are galvanized or copper. So they're not actually lead pipes that come in. So we don't think that that's the issue. But we'd have to look to the city of Fulton for their water and what they test. But beyond that, we're trying to deal with what our situation
Is the city also mandated, like the school districts are, to test for lead? I mean, is it something that you guys are in conjunction with? So if it is?
I can't answer for the city, but we know that there's a report that does exist. In fact, Mr. Wilson shared that with me this afternoon. Do you want to share maybe a little bit of that if you can?
Yeah, I don't actually have a report with me. They do, I believe, annual testing at the city level. So there's an annual report that's online that anybody can view. Specifically for lead, they tested 30 locations around the city of their water locations. And they take the 90th percentile is what they need to report. So that means that there were 3 locations that were higher than 2.2 parts per billion. And the rest of them were at or below 2.2 parts per billion, but their official reported number for the area is 2.2 parts per billion.
Okay. So is that above or below?
So
Or
that's below.
acceptable?
Well, acceptable 0.
Well,
just so you know, but 5
functioning.
is where 5 is where the state
5
says
is the
to us you need to
Threshold,
report.
thank you.
Right, correct.
Now, have we looked at our, not at our last, but our previous, 3 years ago, have we looked in comparison from then to now? Are we doing better or worse?
We have, back then the threshold was 15, and it's sometimes we'll see test results that are very different. And it might be just the water sits longer in that, so you're getting higher levels when they do the testing, so it's hard to tell when you do that. So that's why we're gonna do testing again on these, to see where we're at.
And we mitigated a lot 3 or 4 years ago. I think it was 1920. We mitigated a lot. And I remember working with our previous director of facilities. They had to get there at 4 o'clock in the morning and flush the systems, because if the receptacles aren't being used, that creates a problem. So they would come in 4 or 5 hours. You'd run the water, running water through them. That makes a difference. So I think there's a number of pieces. But we did mitigation, but as Dr. Lisi indicated, the threshold was 15 4 years ago. Now the threshold is 5, and therefore that's the newest, the new data that we have, and we'll mitigate like we did last time and reassess.
And this is anecdotal, but just doing a little bit of research, typically in households, it's anywhere from 5 to 30 is the norm. So not that that's healthy, but that's what you'll typically find at home. So.
Okay. Well, I appreciate you just giving a little update, because, I wasn't quite sure exactly.
Yeah.
And I appreciate it.
Sure.
I'd like to wish everybody happy holidays. And with that, we're gonna move on to our second public forum, if anybody is out there that wants to speak with us. We do not have an executive session this evening. I know Mrs. Hutchinson, she wants one. So if somebody could move 9.01 for adjournment?
Move it.
Move it.
Second.
Can you say that fast?
I have Fallon and Jen. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Passes 6-0-0.
You sure?
We'll see you guys next week at the budget.
6 p.m.